Okay. Welcome, everybody, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Camilla Fox. I know a number of you know who I am. I'm the founder and executive director of Project Coyote. And since we have limited time today, I won't go into my background, but Christopher is going to share in the chat function a link to my notes from the field blog that gives a little bit of history about my work in the animal and environmental advocacy field, and also some of my thoughts around the founding of Project Coyote and why I decided to start this organization 16 years ago. But today we are thrilled to introduce some of our staff, as well as some of our state representatives who are tuning in from Vermont, Michigan, Illinois, Colorado, and Texas. We're also super excited to celebrate our 16-year anniversary this year and share some of the changes that have been underway at Project Coyote and our vision for growth ahead. We also wanted to provide this forum for you to offer deeper opportunities for engagement, as well as answer any of your questions. We have a lot to cover in the next hour, so I will keep this short, but I will share that when we hit our 15-year mark last year, we decided it was a good time to review our mission, our vision, and values as an organization. We so appreciated your responses to the survey we shared with our donors, soliciting your input about what you believe makes Project Coyote unique and deserving of your support. I'm pleased to share that through this very intentional and deliberative process, our mission has changed only slightly with the addition of coalition building in our mission, as well as clarifying our focus on North America's wild carnivores. And Christopher, if you want to pop our mission statement up on the screen, that would be awesome. Thank you. So I'll just read our revised mission. Is to protect North America's wild carnivores and promote compassionate coexistence through education, science, advocacy, and coalition building. And I will also share our revised short vision statement, which is a North America where humans and wild carnivores coexist and ecosystems thrive. And we believe we continue to fill a unique niche in the wildlife protection sphere, advocating for the most maligned, misunderstood, and persecuted wild carnivores, while concurrently fostering compassionate coexistence in both rural and urban areas. And your responses to our survey confirm this. We are currently in the process of reevaluating our organizational values, the principles that guide us both internally and externally, and we look forward to sharing that document with you soon. It will also sit permanently up on our website. And then in the months ahead, we will also be embarking on a website refresh, making it more user-friendly and offering additional levels of engagement for our supporters. Concurrently, we're also revising our style guide and our logo to reflect these organizational changes and ensuring that our branding comports with our values and ethos as an organization. I think what I'm most excited about is our expansion across the US, thanks to your support and the many foundations who believe in our mission and our vision. We rely heavily on volunteers, and we have many who have been with us since inception. I know several who are joining us today as well. And in the years ahead, we will continue to build this volunteer base as well as paid staff. And we will be posting for new positions, both paid and volunteer. And we always appreciate your help in sharing these posts and positions through your networks and channels and helping us build our force of carnivore advocates. Today, you'll hear some reports from our state representatives and some of the incredible work they are doing in their regions to advance our mission and vision. But before we hear from them, I'd like to introduce to you some of our amazing staff. We're limiting staff introductions today to just a few core members, so our state reps have time to share about their regional campaign work. And as Christopher mentioned, we will try to leave some time for questions and answers at the end. As he said, feel free to post any questions in the chat, and we will get to as many as we can before the hour is out. So with no further ado, I would like to pass the virtual mic on to Christopher Lyle, who is our immensely talented and dedicated operations and communications director. Over to you, Christopher.
Thank you so much, Camilla. Good to have so many supporters on our call today. As Camilla mentioned, I'm the operations and communications director, and I joined the team just about a year and a half ago. I've always wanted to work with or for animals, which has led me to work as a research assistant for various primate behavioral research projects, as a red wolf advocate at Defenders of Wildlife, and as the education director at a wolf research and education center. And after several years of working for nonprofits, I knew I wanted to stay in this sector, and I got my master's in philanthropic studies. And this kind of combined background of interdisciplinary work and studies ended up leading me to Project Coyote, where I now get to advocate on behalf of wildlife, increase education and awareness about wild carnivores through writing and other communications, and connect our supporters and our donors to our mission and our campaigns. And there is a lot that I'm excited about with our current work. As Camilla shared, we are updating our branding guide. We're also in the beginning stages of refreshing our website as well. All of this coming on the heels of our communications audit last year that led to the mission and vision statements that Camilla shared. And we should be on track to launch our new website in the early fall. So lots to look forward to coming up. And while all of this isn't necessarily directly influencing wildlife protection, this work is so incredibly important to ensure that we are effectively communicating our mission and attracting new supporters to this movement. We have a lot that we want to accomplish for wild carnivores in the coming years, and we will need a lot of people to join us in order for our goals to be realized. In terms of movement building, I am really excited about our new monthly giving program called the Coyote Collective that we launched just last month. In the first 2 weeks of launching, we gained 140 members, far surpassing our goal of 100. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about this program later, but had to share that as one of my biggest excitements at the moment. And when I'm not working to build community to positively impact wildlife, I can usually be found trail running, creating ceramics, or training animals with positive reinforcement. And I will now turn the virtual mic over to Cassidy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassidy, and I'm really grateful that all of you have joined us today. It's really exciting. I'm the Development Operations Coordinator, and I started working at Project Coyote in January of this year. Can't say enough how talented and kind our team and supporters are. I'm based in southern New Mexico in Las Cruces, and I saw a couple of other New Mexicans in the chat, I believe Jackie and Glenn, so extra welcome to you guys. My background has always been in philanthropy, but specifically in financial inclusion. Christopher and I were actually in the same master's program at the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. So that was really cool to have that prior connection. I've been an animal lover since a small child and have been in the domestic animal advocacy space as a volunteer for years now. After quitting my job and taking a trip to Cusco, Peru last summer, I decided to pursue a career in wild animal advocacy. Project Coyote is very special to me, and I believe we have a very niche position to uplift wild voices. What I'm most excited about this year is celebrating first-time donors. I've created a first-time donor communications program that I hope helps folks feel appreciated and eager to stay on our pack. In just 6 months, so just since January until now, we've had 256 first-time donors, which is wildly incredible. And it's also amazing to see how global our network is. I've had the pleasure of talking to donors from Canada, Brazil, Portugal, and beyond. So our mission transcends borders, language, and culture, which is super special. When I'm not in the weeds of our database, stewarding donors, or conducting grant prospect research, you can find me helping cats and promoting ethical TNR programs, reading a fiction book. So right now I'm reading The Women by Kristen Hanna, or exploring the beauty that New Mexico has to offer. I'm sure that some of you have heard about the terrible forest fires spreading in New Mexico and the devastation to local fauna, flora, businesses, and indigenous land. So please keep Ruidoso and affected tribal communities in your thoughts. Now on to Kristen.
Thank you, Cassidy. It's really great to be here with all of you today. I'm Kristen, and I'm the Public Engagement Coordinator for Project Coyote. I started last October, and so far I've been blown away by the dedication, the talent, and just the empathy displayed by our staff and our wider community. And I've been really impressed with how this organization combines the best available science with a strong ethical stance to advocate for wild carnivores. So I'm honored to be here. I have a doctorate in wildlife conservation and ecology, and I've also been a science communication specialist for a number of years. I've gone from tagging sea turtles in Australia to teaching college students how to scuba dive and study coral reefs, to working alongside scientists at nonprofits on issues like climate change and biodiversity conservation. My role here at Project Coyote is to help basically enhance our relationships with volunteers as well as the public. So I respond to public inquiries, I send monthly updates to our volunteers and keep them informed of our work. And I also work really closely with Christopher to produce communications materials. So that includes our quarterly newsletter, Coyote Chronicles. I'm most excited this year, I think, about creating more opportunities to engage our volunteers in advocacy campaigns. So we've started cultivating an online space through the Circle platform, and this is where our volunteers can network with each other, share stories, inspiration, resources, and coordinate actions. So this is really going to allow us to boost our impact. We receive a lot of volunteer inquiries from folks who are passionate about our mission, so it's going to be amazing to have even more ways to plug them into our work. When I'm not at a computer, I'm usually on the road traveling somewhere in the country in my van with my partner and my Chihuahua. Or if I'm home in California, I'm working with rescue horses. With that, I will pass it on to Renee.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Secor. I am the Carnivore Conservation Director here at Project Coyote. I've been part of the PC team now for about 2.5 years. Lifelong animal lover and advocate for animals in wild nature. My background is in wildlife ecology, receiving my degree from Rocky Mountain College in Billings, Montana, and then later went on to receive my law degree from University of Oregon School of Law. So now using both of those backgrounds in this position to advocate for our nation's wild carnivores, along with this lovely team, which I'm very excited you all get to meet today. As Carnivore Conservation Director here at Project Coyote, I oversee all of our programmatic work, which includes both public education efforts aimed at increasing awareness and fostering appreciation of and really coexistence with our wild carnivores in North America, as well as our more advocacy-focused work, including our campaign efforts to shift both federal and state carnivore policy away from historical and current lethal policies to new frameworks that are centered around human-wildlife coexistence. So we focus on some of the most unethical and inhumane practices, banning and reforming those, such as wildlife killing contests, trapping, hounding, and generally promoting coexistence between people and wild carnivores. A campaign I'm particularly both passionate and excited about is the growing momentum to ban wildlife killing contests, which is a flagship campaign of Project Coyotes. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I'm sure most of you who are logged onto this webinar likely are familiar, but just in case, wildlife killing contests are organized events during which participants compete for captured prizes to kill the most, the largest, and sometimes even the smallest animals over a certain period. So each year, thousands of wild carnivores and other wildlife species, including coyotes, foxes, bobcats, even in some states, wolves and mountain lions, die during these events. The good news is that we've seen great successes over the last year with bans passing in both Oregon across public lands across Oregon, as well as a state ban being enacted in New York, bringing the total number of states to 10 which have banned wildlife killing contests. We also recently saw the federal reintroduction of the Prohibit Wildlife Killing Contest Act of 2024, which was reintroduced by Representative Steve Cohen, and if passed, would ban wildlife killing contests on more than 500 million acres of U.S. federal public lands. Some of our state representatives, who I will introduce shortly, will also speak to active wildlife killing contest campaign efforts in other states as well. Outside of work and all of that, I can be found most recently bird watching in my garden, and also spending time with kind of our growing pack of animals, which includes 4 new baby duck rescues. So that's kind of been absorbing my time most recently. Now I'm going to pivot and introduce the work of our amazing state representatives. These state representatives are critical for all of our campaign efforts across the country. They are our on-the-ground leaders in their respective states. They, really working to advance our programs and campaigns, build grassroots momentum and support for our campaign efforts, and are essential to the success of our work. They keep our state advocates and supporters informed on issues happening in their respective states, direct our supporters on how to get directly involved in advocating for wild carnivores. And as you hear from each of them, you'll realize their work varies greatly on the issues that they're working on, given the particularities of their state and the threats that carnivores are facing on the ground. So their work varies from campaign efforts to ban wildlife killing contests, working to ban trophy hunting of mountain lions via ballot measures, and just general wildlife governance reform efforts as well. So first, I will start by introducing our most recent hire, Karen Saucedo, who will be leading our campaign efforts across Texas as we grow into the region. Karen just started yesterday, so we're very excited to have her as part of the team. I will pass it to her to provide a quick introduction of herself, and then have the other state representatives jump in and give an overview of the key issues and campaigns that they're working on in their respective states. So Karen, I'll kick it to you.
Thank you, Renee. Hi, everyone. In my new role, I'll be helping to expand Project Coyote's core programs and campaigns into Texas. And I cannot wait to start talking to more people about coyotes and other native carnivores so we can begin shifting perceptions of these amazing animals here. I was just at a historic Texas Parks and Wildlife Open Commission meeting last month where they granted the first ever protections for mountain lions here in Texas. They voted unanimously to ban canned hunting, and also mountain lions cannot be held in traps for more than 36 hours. And I see Monica Morrison is on here, founder of Texas Native Cats, and she was a driving force behind these positive steps forward. Outside of Project Coyote, I have a career in advertising and marketing. I'm a wildlife conservation photographer, which led to an obsession with studying the behavior of wild canids and felids. I also work with a lot of our local wildlife rescues here in North Texas as a resource for all their coyote, fox, and bobcat calls from the community. I'm a Texas master naturalist and also a wildlife rehabber myself, and the past 2 months have been incredibly busy. And I see Raylene is on here too as well. She's another rehabber. I have 3 dogs, a cat, and an amazing husband, all rescued from the wild. And now I'll turn it over to Mark Searles in California.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually in Colorado. I'm happy to be the Colorado State Representative for Project Coyote. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background and how I ended up here. So as a wildlife photographer for years, I was a journalist, and I always cherished the opportunity to see a coyote and to photograph one. And throughout that experience, I decided to focus my efforts more specifically on the coyote to write a book that ended with the name Coyote Conversations. So from there, my work aligned with Project Coyote, and I became a Capture Coexistence campaign member. And running parallel with my work with coyotes, I saw the injustice that came towards these animals, and started my advocacy work with them. At that time, I also became linked up with a grassroots organization here in Colorado, or a coalition in Colorado, that was looking to ban the trophy hunting of mountain lions and trapping of bobcats, as well as provide future protection for the Canada lynx. So I've been working with that group for about a year and a half now. We are now called Cats Aren't Trophies. Late last fall, we filed with the Secretary of State, and soon after we began our petition process of 6 months to get the 125,000 valid signatures to get onto the ballot this November. I am now the state volunteer coordinator for the campaign. We have 800 volunteers signed up, 155,000 signatures to date, and we will be finishing on July 3rd with most likely 180 to 190,000 signatures to ensure our place on this November's ballot. If you are in Colorado and you are wanting to help out, even with just over a week left, we still need volunteers to help out in this phase, and then in the public education and PR phase that will begin immediately after the petition period ends. So always feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate the time here, and I will pass it on to the Illinois State Rep, Jane McBride.
Hello all, very happy to be here. Hopefully we're not freezing up. I guess we're okay. My background, let's go way back to undergrad, where I got bachelor's degrees in fisheries and wildlife biology and agricultural journalism from Iowa State. And my first gig working out of college was as a journalist, and I was an outdoor editor and a farm editor, feature writer for a small daily in central Wisconsin. And I was in that role for about 3 or 4 years and got heavily involved with the outdoor community, of course. When you're in a small paper, you're part of the community. So I went to all of the sportsmen's organizations. I actually ended up starting a women's DU dinner, worked heavily with all of the DNR personnel in the area. And so that was an incredible background, enjoyed it a great deal. Later in life, I went back to law school and environmental law at Chicago Kent, and knew I wanted to be on the white hat side, as I always say. And it was so I worked with the Illinois Attorney General's office for nearly 24 years. Also doing environmental enforcement, particularly with the agriculture operations, both odor and water pollution regarding livestock operations and ag chemical operations and the like. But I also did natural resources work, natural resource damages work, both federal and state claims, and natural areas protection. Big case down in the southern part of the state with the Cache River wetlands area. Also heavily involved with the bar associations, CLE director for animal law, environmental law, and we started a food law section. I was chair of the ABA's animal law section. And most recently, I am on the board of the Wisconsin Bar's Indian law section. So what does all this have to do with Project Coyote? So while I was with I used to put on the major programs for the Illinois State Bar Animal Law program, and we had Camilla come and speak, as well as another staff member. We were running 2 conferences at that point, and the topic was wildlife killing contests, which I had not a clue of at that point. And so once I retired from the state, I decided this was going to be a retirement project. It offended me personally. I had spent 3 or 4 years as an outdoor editor, and all we spoke about was ethics. And this activity had nothing to do with ethics. And so hooked up with Project Coyote, fortunately worked very closely with Fran Santiago, who was a wonderful partner in our work here. as a wildlife, with those wildlife background and ethics background. So what we needed to do first was public awareness, because I was not the only one who had not a clue these things went on. And I had an intense network with the conservation environmental community, which is what I wanted to bring into this picture. So we started to make contacts, set up conference calls, set up little show and tells. And we also ended up getting invited to what was called the Wild Things Conference in Chicago, which is over 2,000 conservation people. We got to exhibit, and Fran did a presentation. And there too, with all those conservation professionals, we found out that nobody had a clue these things went on here in Illinois. And so from there, we started to work with the Sierra Club, in particular with all their local groups, which was very crucial. And we managed to get the Sierra Club to come on board as a supporter of this effort to ban wildlife killing contests in Illinois. And I will also say we reached out to Prairie Rivers Network. So in this work, your environmental and conservation folks are very crucial. Here in the Midwest, at least in Illinois, we don't have a lot of wildlife advocacy groups. So we went to the environmental conservation groups, which are relatively strong and have been growing here in Illinois. One of the first things we tried to do was petition the DNR rather than go the legislative route. So one of the national partners went ahead and did that in December. I didn't have the Sierra Club on board yet at that point. I thought it was very important to have the Illinois Sierra Club as a petitioner in this effort. So what we did is we let that group go ahead in December 2022, and then we filed our petition, which I drafted with the Sierra Club. We both were signatories in June. So now the DNR had two petitions and a big with an influential group, state group, with the Illinois Sierra Club. The other thing I did, I made a point of going around to the local groups, as many as I could. Our Sierra Clubs have got local groups, and doing presentations, doing the screenings, making personal connections. And that was incredibly important, because those folks are really tied in. We may not have gotten a big audience. We may have only had 15, 20 people there, but those were the people that were going to make a difference. And that personal connection was really important to them. And so that is a big part of it. The other thing I would have to say is that your Sierra Clubs now, they have now made a major commitment to do wildlife work. So getting these state Sierra Clubs on board, the local groups on board, is really important. And believe it or not, most of them have no idea what wildlife killing contests are. So you've got to do some public awareness off the bat. DNR, hard to believe, but they said they wanted no part of it at the time, and they pitched us to the legislature. We already had a bill introduced, which was leveraged to this whole thing, but last fall we went full force into working on the legislation. Very fortunate, Project Coyote did hire a contract lobbyist. We picked up one that I had worked with in the animal protection world, which was incredibly helpful. And he is a hunter, so he can speak this, and he had never heard of these things either. So he is very effective working with the legislature. So we did get it out of the House. It took a little bit of a lift, but we did get it out of the House. It was kind of last minute. We decided we did not like the committee that we were in for the Senate, so we held off, and we are continuing to work on that through the summer to get it out of the Ag Committee and into the Environmental and Conservation Committee, where I think we'll be more successful, and we hope to be able to move this through in our veto section in the fall. So with any luck, we will be able to move it through. We've got a lot of support. We've got a super majority in the Illinois legislature right now of Democrats, and that was another crucial aspect in the decision to move this through as fast as we possibly could. And what Project Coyote has been able to do with the contract lobbyists, we also funding some billboards, which are pretty effective. It has been incredibly helpful. So I think that is what I've been asked to talk about, and it's a great pleasure being here, and open to any questions at the end. Thanks much. And Are we going to Carol? I'm sorry, I'm not keeping
Yes.
track there. All
Thank
right.
you, Jane. Yes. Hi, everyone. That was so inspiring hearing from Jane in Illinois, because I'm here in Michigan and we're actually trying to do the same thing. So I'm looking to her for her leadership and success. Anyway, my name is Carol Misladine. I'm so happy to be here. As far as my relevant background, after decades of employment in the environmental sustainability field, I switched tracks to animal protection and went to work for the Humane Society of the United States for 10 years. Retired from there in January of 23. And after a really fun year completely off, after 46 years of full-time work, I decided I really wanted to get back into substantive animal protection efforts. So I'm really happy to be back here helping Project Coyote in Michigan. Shortly after I was appointed as state representative in Michigan, I organized several volunteers to join me in submitting testimony to the Natural Resources Commission at their March 14th meeting to urge them to adopt an amendment to the Wildlife Conservation Order, which would reduce the open season on coyotes from 12 months to 9 months. And in spite of dozens of hunters emotionally, seriously, I mean, they accuse us of being emotional. I thought these hunters were going to start crying. They were so emotional in pleading with the NRC and demanding that they be allowed to kill coyotes every single day of the year. Nonetheless, we won, which was really gratifying. And now we have moved on to developing a campaign to make Michigan the 11th state in the country to ban wildlife killing contests. Although I think Illinois is going to beat us, so we'll be the 12th. We're in the beginning phases of the campaign. So far, our work has been to develop an outline and identify specific aspects of the campaign, engage volunteers in our efforts. And I'm so happy to say at least 2 of whom are on this webinar right now. Hi, Kathy and Joyce. And identify potential coalition partners like the Sierra Club, who might be willing to work with us to elevate public awareness about this issue, which is key since so many people don't know about it, as we heard from Jane. And then help us advance regulatory or legislative solutions to end these barbaric contests. I'm really looking forward to sharing so much more about our successes in the months to come. And now I'll turn it over to Sarah Gorsline, one of Project Coyote's representatives in Vermont.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be with all of you today. And I am joining you from Vermont. I've worked for Project Coyote since 2016. I'm currently based on the Champlain Islands, which are in Lake Champlain, just outside of Burlington, Vermont. And I actually come to Project Coyote from a creative arts background. I'm a trained video editor, which is what I do for a living for Project Coyote, as well as several other clients. I have a background in filmmaking, writing, and photography. I'm a multimedia associate for Project Coyote, and that means that I work very closely with many of our amazing photographer and videographer contributors to the Capture Coexistence campaign, which is an amazing campaign asking photographers to collaborate with us on petitions to ban wildlife killing contests and also to donate ethically created wildlife photography to Project Coyote so that we can use that in our campaigns. And I just have to say how moving it is to work with so many amazing artists who are willing to donate their work to Project Coyote to further our wildlife campaigns. I'm currently working on some of our coyote-friendly communities videos for Project Coyote and just finishing those up. I'm also Project Coyote's Vermont representative now. And so I'll just briefly outline some of the things that we're working on in Vermont. One of the most exciting things right now in Vermont is that we have a growing coalition of wildlife advocates. It's really growing very quickly. I feel like even over the last couple of years, it's grown immensely. And I'm working with groups such as Protect Our Wildlife Vermont, Green Mountain Animal Defenders. We actually have someone from Green Mountain Animal Defenders here with us today, Ann Jameson, a wonderful colleague of mine. Vermont Wildlife Coalition, Vermont Wildlife Patrol, In Defense of Animals has someone here. We have someone from the Humane Society working with us, and also Vermont Coyote Coexistence Coalition. And we're hoping that we will get more fair chase and ethical hunters and also more coexistence farmers to join our coalition of wildlife advocates here in Vermont, since it's such a a hunting heavy state and also a farm heavy state. And we really want to work with hunters and farmers to further wildlife campaigns in Vermont. Some of the issues that we're directly working on in Vermont now are trying to end the year-round coyote hunting season that we have here in Vermont. We're also working on increased reporting of wild canids killed in Vermont, which is important because of the fact that eastern wolves are now naturally rehoming to the northeast of the United States. And so we would like our Fish and Wildlife Department to study the larger coyotes that are killed because we know that there have been wolves and wolf coyote hybrids killed in Vermont by hunters. And we're hoping that the department will further education around how to differentiate between eastern coyotes and eastern wolves. Other issues we're actively working on are an end to leg hold trapping and body crushing traps here in Vermont, which lead to a number of pets being trapped every year or companion animals. So we're also trying to work on trapping, and we're also looking to expand the ban on wildlife killing contests of coyotes. We currently have a ban on coyote killing contests in Vermont, but we still allow killing contests of raccoons, skunks, other mammals that we're seeking to end. We worked very hard, our coalition, on a bill called S-258, which was in the Vermont legislature this last year. It was a bill to diversify our board of Fish and Wildlife, who are basically our policymakers around wildlife in Vermont. And the bill looked to diversify the board and also to ban coyote hounding. Unfortunately, the bill didn't advance through the legislature the way that we had hoped. But the good news is that we feel that the discussions around that bill have sort of cracked open the door to the idea that really a board that makes all wildlife policy in Vermont should have more diverse membership than solely consumptive users like trappers, hunters, and hound hunters who are currently occupying those board seats. So another just success I'll wrap up with is that we did succeed, luckily, in getting a ban on export of black bear organs and also paws out of Vermont. So that was included in a bill called S-301, which is Act 141 that was signed into law in Vermont. So that makes it so that it is illegal to export those items from Vermont, which apparently bear hunters had previously been doing. So I will wrap up with that. Just a note that if you want to see any of my video work, many of the recent longer short films, educational films for Project Coyote are things that I worked on. Our amazing social media coordinator, Carrie Duckworth, also does some video editing for our social media channels. So you'll see her work there as well. And just a note, if you want to see any of my other video work that I've done in recent years, I worked on an environmental documentary called Symphony of the Soil, which is interesting to check out, and also The Third Harmony, which is about nonviolence work and how that can be used in all sorts of activism, which I use quite frequently in my wildlife activism here in Vermont. So with that, I will wrap up, and I will hand the mic back to my amazing colleague, Christopher Lyle. Thank you. Take it away, Christopher.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I don't have the links, I don't think, to the videos you just referenced handy. So if you want to pop those in the chat for folks, maybe ecosystem allies as well, that would be just amazing. But thank you again, Sarah, for all the work you're doing in Vermont, and for all of our other state reps doing such critical on the ground work to protect wildlife in your states. We really appreciate all you do for Project Coyote and your wild neighbors. And something that we really believe to be critical for ensuring the success of our collective work for wild carnivores is to inspire appreciation for these species at the state level and beyond. And Project Coyote works with artists to help change public perceptions of our often misunderstood and vilified wild carnivores through imagery and other art forms. Sarah just mentioned our Capture Coexistence campaign, and that just completely exemplifies the importance and impact of this intersectional work. This campaign brings together photographers and videographers to take a stand against wildlife killing contests and show that wildlife are worth more when they are shot through a lens rather than a gun. And one of our campaign contributors, Dan Elster, has gone above and beyond with supporting this initiative and our overall mission. And I'd love to hand over the virtual mic so he can introduce himself further and share a little bit more about how he's used his talents to support our shared goal of protecting the wild. Take it away, Dan, if you are still with us.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
You can hear me now. Sorry, I don't do a lot of Zoom calls, everyone.
No worries.
Just a brief introduction of who I am and what I do. I've been a wildlife photographer for going on 20 years now. I started my career after moving out of Chicago. I had a very urban existence up till the time I was about 30 years old. And from my earliest days of being in semi-rural areas, I've been very surprised and sometimes shocked at the culture around our predators. Maybe it's the people I met or just the circles I initially was in, just this overall feeling of hatred toward coyotes, bobcats, everything. And I wondered if that's just how it was and that's how people were. Eventually, I moved out of Chicagoland and I migrated west, and now I'm in Southern Oregon. And there's still quite a bit of that bad blood toward our predators, which led me to discovering Project Coyote. And I kind of just followed Project Coyote from the background. For the first couple of years, I was aware of them. And then I started a greeting card line called Big Picture Greetings. And I decided at the last minute before launching this greeting card line that I was going to donate 10% to wildlife conservation. I had no idea where it was going to go or what was going to happen with it. But I knew who the first recipient of some of my greeting card money was going to be, and that was going to be Project Coyote. Since then, I've donated to Project Coyote 3 times now. There's a few other organizations I love working with as well. And I realize it doesn't take a whole lot to hopefully make some sort of a difference. I just did a targeted campaign with Project Coyote. That was the first time I've tried that. And basically, the more I give, the better it feels. And Project Coyote in particular, you guys get results. Like, I can see what you're doing. Sometimes I wonder with some of these big national wildlife organizations, where is all this money going? And I never wonder with you guys. You guys are actually on the ground doing stuff and making things happen. And I just love that about you guys. And that's why I'm always going to be a contributor, via Capture Coexistence or through my greeting card company. It just feels right. I'm so appreciative of you guys. I live in Ashland, Oregon, and we are a town with very frequent encounters with coyotes, black bears, cougars, and it's interesting to see the public's reaction around here. You know, some people see a bear and they're calling the police and they're calling every wildlife agency around, and I try and stifle that the best I can. I'm only one person. I kind of have a distrust of, unfortunately, our organizations. I don't know whose side the Oregon Fish Department and Wildlife is on. So anyhow, I just, in addition to raising money, I'd like to think I'm raising awareness. I've probably spoken to 1,000 school-age children this year. Yeah, I do slideshows in this region. And I plan on doing more of that. And I'm just happy to be a part of Project Coyote in some small way. And that's really all I got for people. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dan, for all you do for Project Coyote and for wild carnivores across the country through your photography and through your business. For any nature photographers or videographers who are watching, you can join the Capture Coexistence campaign as a contributor through the link I shared in the chat earlier. or you can go to our Instagram where there is some information in the link in our bio. And we are running a little short on time now, and I do want to make sure we have some time for Q&A, but I want to share a few different ways that any listeners can get involved with us and support our cause if you feel led. So the first is really, really easy. Anyone can do it if you're on social media, and it's to go follow our social media platforms. Our social media and marketing coordinator, Carrie, who Sarah mentioned earlier, she unfortunately couldn't join our webinar today, but she does an absolutely fantastic job at disseminating our action alerts and educational resources, as well as just creating a wide variety of inspiring content that you don't want to miss out on. And every time you share that content with your own network, it helps us grow our community and this movement and spread the message of compassionate coexistence. So please go follow us on social media if you're not already. The second thing that almost anyone can do to actively support our work and connect with our team on a deeper level is to join the Coyote Collective. And if you are already a member of the Coyote Collective, please let us know in the chat. We'd love to see who all from this community is here with us today. But we launched this monthly giving program last month for our anniversary. And as I mentioned earlier, we had 140 new members join us in just the first 2 weeks, which was incredibly inspiring to see. Our recurring donors are so incredibly important to the stability and health of our organization. It allows us to confidently plan long-term campaigns and initiatives on behalf of wild carnivores, knowing we have the funds that we can count on month to month. And we chose the name Coyote Collective to honor coyotes as our flagship species because, as most of you know, the coyote is the most persecuted wild carnivore in North America, with one killed every single minute due to unregulated recreational hunting. And members of the Coyote Collective support our work for all wild carnivores, but we do believe that creating a more compassionate world for coyotes then creates a better world for all other wildlives. The collective part of the name represents our belief that actions and donations, however big or small, can collectively create enormous impact. We want every single member of our community to recognize that they make a difference in this movement, regardless of donation size. And in fact, most of our new members of the Coyote Collective give at the $3 a month or $5 a month levels, which is about the price of a cup of coffee each month. But collectively, our 140 new members represent an annual fund of nearly $20,000. And I cannot express how thrilled we are for all of the new work we can now do with these funds. This will help us launch new state campaigns like our wildlife killing contest campaigns, and advance some of our existing initiatives like our Protect America's Wolves campaign. It is just incredible what this community can do if we all pitch in whatever we can, whether it's buying a cup of coffee for wild carnivores each month or using a talent or a skill to raise awareness or funds. It all makes a collective difference. So if you have not already felt called to join this community, it does come with some really great perks. Thanks to the support of our Capture Coexistence community, all of our Coyote Collective members receive a desktop and mobile screensaver each month featuring various wild carnivore species photographed by our Capture Coexistence contributors. And our monthly Coyote Collective e-newsletters also include exclusive campaign updates and short video interviews and Q&As with Project Coyote representatives. We will be developing even more perks and ways for this community to get involved as we go. But as a perk of just being here today, we are going to be randomly selecting 2 new members of the Coyote Collective who joined today. So that could be any of you here today who have not already joined this community to receive one of Dan's incredible wild carnivore greeting card sets, which you can see in one of the links I shared earlier. All you have to do is join the collective at any time today, and 2 new members will be randomly selected tomorrow to receive this gift. And for existing members, we don't want you to feel left out either. So 2 members of the collective Specifically, members who are here with us today for this webinar are also going to be randomly selected to receive one of these greeting card sets. So if you'd like to join, you can go to our website, projectcoyote.org, and select Donate Monthly on our menu, or you can click the link that I believe Renee is going to be sharing in the chat just a moment. And I hope to connect with many of you through this new community soon. The final area of support I'd like to mention just briefly is something else that almost anyone can do, and that is leaving a legacy. Our fiscal sponsor, Earth Island Institute, just partnered with Free Will to make this process as easy as possible. With the link that we are going to be sharing in the chat right now, let me pop that in there. You can create a will for free to gain peace of mind, protect your loved ones, and honor your favorite causes, i.e. Project Coyote. And regardless of your age, you can create a will or a living trust and designate Project Coyote to receive a portion or all of your assets once you leave this earth. And legacy gifts truly make a very long-lasting impact by helping nonprofits grow and expand their programs for generations to come. So if you have any questions about this process or the impact that it could have, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to talk with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Camilla to wrap us up and then launch us into some Q&A with our remaining minutes.
Thank you, Christopher. And I want to echo what Christopher said there about our gratitude to our donors, and particularly those who have joined as sustaining supporters. As he mentioned, that kind of long-term evergreen support is vital, and can be as low as, like he said, $3 a cup of coffee a month. But that really enables us to continue our growth and looking into the future to make sure that we can maintain, sustain, keep our incredible staff, and keep growing. Our vision is to expand across the US and continue to have these amazing state reps, regional reps. So thank you. And I will also say that, with our 16 years of existence, we're seeing more people putting us in their trusts and wills and estates, and that is also critical funding. So we believe this free will process that Earth Island Institute, our fiscal sponsor, is offering will make that very simple. And just appreciate everyone who has thought of us as they're thinking about their legacy. Lastly, I want to thank the foundations that have supported us over the years. We have several who have supported us since our founding in 2008. I know several are on today's webinar, and just really want to express my deep gratitude for your continued support and belief in our mission, our vision, our values as an organization. So thank you all for joining today. And I know we have just a few more moments for Q&A, but I also want to give one last shout out to our amazing team. It was really wonderful to have all of our state reps on today. Not all of our staff were able to join today. We were trying to keep it succinct to really show you and showcase the work of our state reps. But as you can see, we have an amazing team and hope to continue growing it. So thank you all. Over to you, Christopher.
Thank you, Camilla. And yeah, with our remaining minutes, we do want to keep it close to an hour. So we'll try not to go too far past the hour, but it looks like we have just a few questions in the Q&A. The rest of our team that are on our panel, feel free to put your video back on, since you may be called upon to answer a question or may just be the best fit for it and want to jump in. But I'm going to get us started with reading out our first question. And it's from Bill Woodbridge. He says, as I understand it, only 4% of the US population are hunters. So how is it that the other 96% of us cannot get the hunting and killing of wolves completely outlawed in this country? And I think that touches well on our wildlife governance reform work. Probably Camilla or Renee might want to touch on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to, we can tag team it, Camilla. yeah, definitely something we work on across the country. It's a really good question that we ask ourselves every day. It's definitely a systemic and issue nearly in every state across the country. State wildlife policies and institutions have a kind of outdated preference to consumptive wildlife users, hunters, trappers, and those interests have been prioritized over the broader public for a long time. We see wildlife commissions that have been stacked with consumptive user groups, right? And so they're the representatives that are making most of the decisions and policies regarding our wildlife, and the broader public aren't represented in these fish and wildlife commissions. And so that's reflected in the policies that are active across the country for wildlife. And unfortunately, it takes chipping away at wildlife governance reform and changing the makeup of those commissions and working on these issues, growing grassroots support for better representation for wildlife in policy making decisions in order to change that. We know that the broad public increasingly views wildlife as part of their social community, that they support the protection of wildlife, that they would like to coexist with wildlife. We know that the hunting and trapping community is a very small contingency of the US. And so we are working through many of our state reps here on systemic, wildlife governance reform and changing the way that we're represented in policymaking processes for wildlife across the country. And making sure that wildlife are, adequately considered and have a seat at the table in the policymaking decisions as well.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Renee said. I think, this speaks to the systemic issue of this going back to pretty much when settlers set foot on this continent and viewed predators as a threat to livestock, as a threat to the species humans hunt for game. And that is reflected now in our commissions, which are generally appointed by governors. And unfortunately, in many state legislatures that still view predators as something to generally eradicate. And so that really speaks to the need for deep reform. And we are part of a coalition called Wildlife for All that is about wildlife agency governance reform, and really looking how we can work as a coalition. Multiple different organizations are part of that, to reform these state agencies, to identify where we can appoint more wildlife friendly commissioners, and really, push that needle. And I see advances with this in Colorado, where Mark is, California, in terms of some of our commissioners, and several other states. Sarah mentioned, legislation there to try to reform state wildlife agency governance. So there are movements, and it's going to take a coalition effort. And we are hopeful that being part of Wildlife for All, that we can keep pressing this across the country. So appreciate the question. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Camilla and Renee. Sort of relatedly, because you kind of touched on this a little bit, Camilla, we got a question about what has been proven to be the most effective strategy in reducing human-wildlife conflict between farmers and wild carnivores. Could this be transferred to conservation strategies in African carnivores, like education and proven compensation?
Okay, well, that's a big question. I will start by saying that if there's anything I have learned in my many years of working on human-wildlife conflicts, is that they are very contextual in nature. So there's no silver bullet that will fix any given conflict or situation. Our general approach is, whether that conflict is in an urban area or a rural area, to gather as much information as we can so that we can tailor our approach and our messaging and our tools and our resources for that given community. We have a whole host of resources, non-lethal approaches to reduce conflicts on farms and ranches on our website. Christopher is kindly sharing those links. You are on it, Christopher. Thank you. And then our Coyote Friendly Communities program provides a lot of free downloadable resources, particularly for conflicts, not only with coyotes, but wildlife in general on the urban interface. And there will be more of these resources coming as we refresh our website and expand these programs across the country.
Thank you, Camilla. And yeah, please go check out our new videos that we posted in the chat. That'll hopefully help. And you can share those with any farmers that you know, especially helpful for people doing backyard homesteading as well. A lot of good nuggets of information in there. I'm going to try to be quick with a few last questions so we can cover them all. We have a question specifically about trapping in Texas. So probably over to you, Karen. The question is from Ellen, and she's asking, is Texas working to decrease the amount of time in which traps are checked? 36 hours likely means death for the captured animal.
Thank you, Christopher. So until last month, Texas had no trap requirements for mountain lions. There was a lot of discussion at the commission meeting around using technology going forward. They voted unanimously to have a 36-hour, at least a 36-hour trap check minimum. And Ben Master, he's a filmmaker, brought a camera, and it was just such a great visual to show the commissioners you can use this inexpensive piece of technology to monitor activity, and it's not going to break the bank of a trapper. So it was just a great demonstration, and that really started getting the commission to start thinking about ways we can use technology like that to help prevent unnecessary suffering, which I think everybody in that room was on board with. So it was pretty cool to see that.
I will do a little follow-up. Thank you, Karen, for that. And I know Texas is uniquely difficult on this. One of the few states to still allow mountain lion trapping in the country. You know, and generally for Project Coyote, we minimally support a 24-hour trap check time. There's so much evidence and data to show that so many of the injuries and the suffering is caused in that time that an animal is captured and trying to free itself, herself. So we strongly believe that the trap check time should be less. We strongly believe that we should not be trapping wildlife. At the same time, you know, at least 24 states have a 24-hour trap check time. So minimally, all states should get to that minimum threshold to reduce at least some injuries and suffering. But we appreciate all the work in Texas, and it is huge to get this far. And certainly the ban on canned hunting was enormous. Thank you all for your collective work there.
Thank you, Karen and Camilla. So we have two more questions. The first one I can probably answer real quick, but if anyone else has things to add, feel free. It is from Philomena, and it is basically asking about if there's any ways to get involved beyond spending any kind of assets, including ways to develop events or other ways to volunteer. And so this is a really good question. We always have people wanting to volunteer, but we also have a very small staff, and we are spread across the entire country. We're doing a lot of campaign work, as you've just heard from so many of us. So it is not always possible to kind of work one-on-one with volunteers. So we are in the process of actually developing kind of a general volunteer toolkit with ways that really anyone can get involved in this movement and this cause, including doing events for us. It is massively beneficial for us when people host what we like to call friend raisers. So getting a group of your friends and connections and inviting others to your home to either show a film screening or do some kind of mini fundraiser and raise awareness about wild carnivores in your area. So we're going to be working on developing that, and we'll release that to our full supporter list. If there's anything in particular that anyone is thinking of that they could volunteer a specific skill or talent to us, you can also email us at info@projectcoyote.org, and I'll pop that in the chat. All right, so our final question, I'm popping it in the chat. So that is our general email, and you can reach out to that anytime with questions. Our final question is from Rama and is asking if there's any way that we can ensure that more severe consequences are given to animal abusers like Cody Roberts, who have tortured and killed wildlife. Rama says that it infuriates him that he got away with a small fine of $250, as if that young innocent wolf's life was worthless. We are equally infuriated, and I'll let maybe Renee take it away because we've been doing a lot of awareness work about that issue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you haven't seen our blog post on this issue, I recommend maybe Christopher, he's quick with the keyboard fingers, can pop it in the chat. But we delve into many of the issues that the horrific Cody Roberts incident kind of displayed on larger systemic problems that carnivores are facing across the country, including wildlife not being protected by animal cruelty laws. And so that's something that, as you know, part of the coalitions that we work in across the country, working on protecting America's wolves, are now looking at reforming and trying to get animal cruelty statutes extended to wildlife. We posted on social media today in regards to a rally that's happening in Washington, D.C. Thursday of next week, where folks are going to start to have conversations with federal legislators about how we can better protect wildlife from cruelty and acts such as the Cody Roberts incident. So there'll be a lot of follow-up conversations and meetings with legislators after that rally in Washington, D.C. There's also work at the state level in Wyoming where this incident happened to try to get practices like whacking, which is running animals over with snowmobiles, which is something that happens to wolves, like the wolf incident in Wyoming, but it also happens to coyotes across the Northern Rockies as well. So working on banning practices like coyote and wolf whacking and trying to get cruelty statutes extended to wildlife. So definitely a multitude of issues that we're working on to ensure that carnivores such as wolves and coyotes aren't subjected to cruelty and acts like this.
All right, I think we covered most of the questions. We had another one that was emailed in advance that we will reply to via email because it might be a little more lengthy. If you have any questions as you kind of digest and sit with all of the information that you heard today, feel free to reach out to us at info@projectcoyote.org and we'll do our best to get those questions answered. But thank you all again. And Camilla, do you have any final words for us?
Just a big thank you, and we will be sharing this recording and several of the links that were shared in case you didn't get to click on all of them and check it out during the webinar. But thank you. And I know lots of people have said, when are you going to have more of these? We love meeting your team. So we'll do them as frequently as we can and just encourage you to share more about Project Coyote with others if you think that they would find our work of interest. We, as I know I've shared in many emails and other webinars, we don't spend your donor dollars on buying or purchasing email lists or mailing lists. And so it means slower, but very intentional and deliberate growth. But it also means that we're a community. And if you know others who'd be interested in our work for wildlife, we hope you will help to extend and expand our circle of compassion. Thank you.